got a vision to go send for Peter. That would be like, for me, getting a vision to send for Billy Graham. Alright? Because if you read in the chapter before and the chapter after this, Peter was the man. Peter was the big dog in Israel right then and there. He had just raised who was a Dorcas, Tabitha, by name, from the dead. She was a very prominent disciple, and he had just raised her from the dead. His name meant something. He was a man that had some authority. Okay? So he was the big dog in that circle. And it'd be like me sending for Billy Graham right now. It would be like, okay, can I really do that? Can I really send for somebody with that much authority? And one, it was illegal to do. It was so illegal for him because they were two different religions, two different nations. What they were doing, what Peter and Cornelius was doing, was breaking the law to the point where they could have been charged and put in prison. Okay? But they were two hungry men. If you notice when it said Peter, it said he became hungry. And it says he would have ate, but he fell into a trance. He got into this prayer, this vision, where God showed him he brought down the animals. And what's happening here? Cornelius is the first Gentile to be saved. This chapter is one of the most important chapters in the Bible. This incident is right up there with crucifixion and Jesus being raised from the dead. Because if this didn't happen, none of us sitting here today would be here. None of us sitting here today would be able to be in part of this glory, this thing we call Christianity. We would have never been a part of this if this didn't happen. Okay? It was very important. So, one, and this is where I want to challenge you guys, is we need to step out sometimes. When God gives us a direction and gives us a way to go, even though it might be hard and it might be a struggle, we need to take those steps of faith. We need to take those steps into doing it. Because let's say this ministry, I mean, I feel this is an awesome church. Who wants to agree with me? That's all right. But this is an awesome ministry, okay? But like what Pastor was saying this morning, we have some struggles, right? We have some issues that we have to come across. And you know what? Pastor cannot do it by himself. He's the pastor, praise God, he's a good pastor, but he can't do it by himself. This is not a one-man show. And in order for us to have a successful ministry, who do we need? All you guys sitting here tonight. And me. This is what it takes. It's a give and take kind of thing. And if we aren't willing to get up and do what God's called us to do, and whatever that may be, I'm not saying specifics, only you and God know that. But we need to start taking those steps into that ministry, into that walk, okay? But I want you to notice something here, that Peter, I mean, like I said, he was the man. Him going into Cornelius' home was unlawful. He was breaking the law when he did that. He put at risk his entire ministry. He put at risk everything that he was doing. Okay? But what did it say here? It said in the verse 9, it says, "But the voice answered me again from heaven, what God hath cleansed, that call not thou common." If you read that, that's past tense. That's in the past tense. So what does that mean? In verse 9. No, it's not verse 9. Verse 15. It's in verse 9 and 11. But in chapter 10, verse 15. It says, "What God hath cleansed, that call not thou uncommon." Or common. It's past tense. Jesus prophesied about this in Matthew. He prophesied about this very event in Matthew chapter 8, verse 5 through 13. Let's go there real quick. I just want to read it. This is a very powerful thing. When I read this, I want you to see how close these two stories go together. Matthew chapter 8. Let's start with verse 5. It says, "And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Lord, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus said unto him, I will come and heal him. And the centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. It says, for I am a man under authority, having soldiers under me. And I say to this man, go, and he goeth, and to another, come, and he cometh. And to my servant, do this, and he doeth it. And when Jesus heard it, he marveled and said unto them that followed him, verily I say unto you, I have not found so great a faith, no, not in Israel. Verse 11 and 12, this is very powerful. It says, and I say unto you, that many shall come from the east and the west, and shall not sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What's that saying? I'm going to read verse 11 again, and it says, I said unto you, that many shall come from the east and west, and shall sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus was prophesying that the Gentiles were going to get saved there. But what does it say in verse 12? This is very sad. It says, but the children of the kingdom. Who is the children of the kingdom? When he said that, the Jews shall be cast out into outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The very people that he was there to save was going to miss out because of their religious attitude, because of their religious way of doing things. They were missing out on the truth and what God had for them. And what's happening is when Cornelius was saved, it was fulfilling this prophecy. Okay? Let me share this with you too. This is the Amplified. Verse 11 and 12 in the Amplified says, I tell you, many will come from the east and the west, and will sit at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. It says, while the sons and the heirs. Who are the sons? That's the Hebrews, the Jews. And who are the heirs? Where does it say we'll be heirs of Abraham? We'll be engrafted in, heirs, according to the promise. So is that including us too?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, according to the word, when it's broken down, when this translation is broken down from Hebrew, it says, while the sons and heirs of the kingdom will be driven out into the darkness outside, where there will be weeping and grinding of teeth. Children of God, people here tonight, I'm telling you, if you get focused on religion and you get focused on playing these stupid little games that the world has to offer, we're going to miss out on the kingdom. We're going to miss out on heaven because of our own foolishness, because of our own stupidity. Excuse me. It's that simple. We're going to miss out on what God has to offer to us. And if you look at this scripture in Acts, there's 2 hungry men. And in order for their hunger to be fulfilled, each man had their own part to play. Cornelius' hunger would not have been satisfied unless Peter answered the call to satisfy his hunger. Remember what it said? It said he became hungry. And I don't think it was just because he was hungry for food. I think it was a spiritual hunger. Okay? And the only way that Cornelius would ever have gotten saved is if Peter answered that hunger, answered that call. All right? There's so many of us that we walk through this world and we have these hunger pains with a spiritual call that we're missing, that we're ignoring. And people are dying and going to hell because of it. Because we're not willing to step away from the table or step away from what, Lord, just our own foolishness, our own apathy and laziness, not turning off the TV long enough to say a prayer, or not putting down, just getting into the Word. You know what I mean? We're missing out on what God has to offer. And I encourage you guys tonight, take advantage, take heed to these words that these 2 hungry men. Because Cornelius represents the world. And I'm telling you guys, the world is hungry. Yep. They are very hungry. They want something. They need something to fill that emptiness, to fill that void. Then that is never going to change. And you see it in the world today. That's why we have so many addicts. That's why we have so many people that are falling into sin and just getting ate up in this world. They're trying to find something to fill that void. Because there's not enough of us heeding the call. Because if we don't satisfy our hunger to satisfy their hunger, they're going to be lost. You guys understand that?
Yep.
People are dying and going to hell because we aren't satisfying our hunger. Because every one of us have it, and I know we do. You have that nudge, you have that inner man when you go to the supermarket, be a witness, and you don't. Or my biggest thing, and you can ask Amy, and I want to admit this to you, is road rage. That is my worst. Oh my gosh. Praise Jesus. That is my biggest battle. I mean, I will follow someone home just to preach to them. All right? And it was an issue. I mean, I've done really good. I think I've won that battle. Now, there was one time, I'll share this story with you. This was before me and Amy. I just got off work. Anybody ever work third shift? Third shift is rough. It's a hard life. And I did it a lot. And I just got off work. It was a Friday, so we didn't have to go to work that night. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing good. And I pull up to the stop sign, and I guess I didn't go through it fast enough. And the dude behind me decided he's going to cut around me and go around me and run me off. And I was like, okay, that's how he wants to play it. Let's play. So I follow the guy home, and I'm sitting in his driveway. He's freaking out. He didn't get out of his car. He's sitting there. You can see him shaking. And pay in mind, I'm not the smallest guy in the world. I mean, that's when I had the long crazy hair and just Christian. I thought, oh gosh, shouldn't have said that. I was a Christian. I was a God-fearing man of God, and I was chasing somebody down. And I felt horrible after the fact. And the Lord was like, Lord, deliver me from this temper, from this way of living. Instead of being a witness, I was being just like the world was. Okay? So guys, I'm not going to keep you much longer. I just want to encourage you guys. Satisfy that hunger. Satisfy that urge inside of you to be a witness. Satisfy that need that these other people have, the world has. And trust me guys, they're dying. The world's dying, and they're dying quick. The end is coming so quickly. If you watch the news, if you turn your news on, the first 5 minutes you're going to see prophecy. You're going to see all this stuff coming to pass. All right? And we have to do our part. I do not want to go to heaven and the Lord say, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you do what you could do? Why didn't you do what I told you to do? Why did such and such have to die and go to hell because of your laziness? Right? Who wants that? None of us. So I encourage you guys tonight, get in this church, get hooked up, get your life together, start focusing on what God's called you to do. God's not called me to play piano. I would love to know how to play a piano like these women here do. I mean, what you played just before I came up, you could have played that all night and I would have been satisfied. I mean, that was just so powerful. And I get jealous. I get jealous of these guys with all this talent and all this ability to just sit and do stuff like that. And I like to preach, but I don't feel like I'm up to where I should be. Especially after this morning when Pastor preached, I'm like, I gotta follow that? Are you kidding me? That man can lay it down. And so, but here's the thing, guys. I'm sorry. We have to stay focused.